Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Beware the Board, a horror podcast where we watch a randomly selected horror movie every single week. I'm Bob.
I'm Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Hey-oh.
Good Lord. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it has.
Oh, my God.
We're in like the 6th hour.
Yeah. You got anything you want to talk about before we get to the movie this week?
If anyone's interested, the best Shrek movie
Oh, my God.
is playing in theaters on the 20th. I don't know if this episode's out by then, but I think it's April 20th. So,
Do you want to explain to the audience what the best Shrek movie is?
Oh, it's Shrek 2.
Okay.
Shrek 2 has a boppin' soundtrack.
Shrek 2 does have a good soundtrack. I haven't seen it
I stand
in
by
years. A lot of people will argue Shrek 1 and Shrek 2 are the best ones.
that. Oh, yeah. Shrek 3, garbage.
Yeah.
Shrek 4, surprisingly
it's
okay.
Yeah, it's like not actually awful. I'll admit that. It's one of the few movie franchises where I've seen most of them.
Don't forget Transformers.
Yeah.
Bob's sad because he's been keeping himself from watching the Monkey Transformer movie out of spite.
No, I mean, I just don't care.
Monkey robot.
Like I've told you before, I only watch those films when my friends drag me to go see those films.
Yeah, Bob's the friend in that situation.
No, I just
the one time he's his own friend.
I just don't have any interest in it, for real. I also don't have any time. Like, I watch enough movies for this show. So, like, Okay. I'm going to get to the news. I got quite a bit today, so this might be a little winded. We talked about this a while ago. Halloween was sold to a new production company for rights to a TV show. It was bought by Miramax.
Yeah.
From Blumhouse, who made the previous trilogy. The Halloween TV show, to be produced by Miramax, will be a complete creative reset, taking us back to the original film.
Great, and we all love Miramax.
Okay, yeah,
They're
we all
such
love Miramax.
They're such a great company with no black sheep or skeletons in their closet.
Absolutely not. I think that's kind of cool. I'm not that I'm excited they're resetting the timeline again, because they just did that and then did the 3-movie trilogy.
Yeah, but that was more of a soft reboot.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they're going to do with Michael from the beginning again.
Well, they're probably like, wow, maybe we shouldn't make Michael like 80 years old.
Probably. That would help, yeah.
That would help, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. We've talked about it before. I don't find Michael Myers that interesting. I think his dynamic with Laurie Strode is cool, and I think the Halloween movies are well made, or at least
The first two.
The first two are well made, and the third one
was pretty good.
It's very different, but it's well made. All the ones made by go figure, John Carpenter.
Yeah.
But him as a character to center a franchise on has always been like a weak point for me, because I think he's just a dude. He's a very intimidating dude, but like there's nothing really like there's not enough to latch onto.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm interested to see what they come up with for a show.
No, I will be, but I feel like just the more I see like movies and stuff with Michael Myers in it, the more I'm like, wow, this is like old hat.
Yeah.
In a very different way than Jason. Like we've seen all the Friday the 13th stuff, and I think Jason holds up pretty well.
Yeah.
Throughout all those films.
Especially by the end.
Yeah.
By the end, I'm actually rooting for Jason most of the time.
In a way that I struggle with Michael Myers. Because I think he's less, I don't know, I guess the word would be identifiable. Like, less I can identify with him kind of stuff.
That's fair. I'm excited about it. I'm a big Halloween fan, so I'm excited to see what they're going to do. Especially with short form. Like, being TV instead of a movie. I feel like there's a lot more room for, like, build up over time. Which is one of my favorite parts about the original film is the suspense and the buildup you get from all the stalking and stuff. But now you get it over multiple episodes rather than like, an hour and a half long movie or whatever. So I think that's pretty exciting.
Fair enough.
Next thing, we all know Clive Barker. He's like a horror icon. He's known for writing Candyman and the books that inspired the Hellraiser franchise. Big writer, has been putting out books forever, has so many books out there. He's announced that he will no longer be going to conventions. He will not be doing any more public appearances for quite a while. Not because he doesn't like it or doesn't want to, but because he's committing to writing full time. Like, he has basically said, I'm done going to the conventions for a while. I love my fans. I really appreciate you guys, but I have a bunch of projects that I need to finish. So he's going...
You said that was, oh my God, what's his name?
Clive Barker.
You said it was Clive Barker? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the writer, right?
Mhm.
For the books.
Yeah.
He's so gay. He's super gay.
That's so funny.
I'm sorry. That sounds
Uh.
like a weird thing to think.
Uh,
That's like the first thing that comes to mind when I'm thinking about Clive Barker, because he wrote Hellraiser, right?
yeah, Telltale Heart.
And Telltale Heart he wrote while going to a bunch of like BDSM clubs in
That
England,
makes sense.
like gay clubs.
So, if you want to meet Clive Barker, his last appearance will be at the Days of the Dead convention in Chicago, March 22nd through the 24th. I don't know if this comes out after that or not, but I don't think so. So, if you want to meet Clive Barker and you want the chance, that's the last time he's going to be out for quite a while, probably. Maybe for good. He said for good, but I'm assuming he will probably start doing stuff again eventually. Like,
well,
I take
he
it.
says for good because he's old.
He is old. He's like 71, I think.
So it might be for good. I think this is him going, I'm getting old. I have a bunch of unfinished projects. I
Mhm.
want to finish them before I die.
Yep.
So I'm going to be working on them probably till I die.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we haven't watched a Clive Barker thing yet on the podcast.
We've talked about it.
We've definitely talked about it
I've
quite
been
a few
seeing,
times.
I have in my list of like categories, there's one that's just Clive Barker.
Yep.
Because he directed his own movies.
Yeah, we could watch Nightbreed, which I don't know nothing about except that he made it.
And it's called Nightbreed.
Yeah, it's called Nightbreed. Seems cool. This is the one. So we before we started this recording, me and Ben went and got food, and I looked at Ben and started chuckling in the car, and I said, "This one, I'm writing this one down because it's funny."
Yeah, Bob did his notes in the car while I was driving.
Yeah. The cocaine X creature trend continues.
Fucking hate that trend.
Hold on.
You
Hold
know
on.
why I hate that trend? Because the movie that started it was Garbo.
That's true. After the sensation that was Cocaine Bear hit box office last year,
Sensation my ass.
it spawned a few other films, most notably Cocaine Shark, which we have not seen on the podcast, but that was another one.
Crack Raccoon, wasn't it something like that?
The Crack Coon.
Raccoon, yeah.
There was also the Cocaine Cougar. That was another one. We haven't seen any of those other ones because Cocaine Bear sucks.
How you fuck
It
up a
won
movie about...
Worst movie of the year.
Yeah, how do you
last year.
fuck up a movie about a cocaine and a bear?
I don't know.
And the bear on that cocaine.
Don't understand. Movie sucks. But that is not the wildest one so far. None of those are the craziest films with cocaine and creatures. Cleopatra Entertainment has announced a new production, Cocaine Werewolf. Which
sure
I think is awesome.
that movie definitely exists already.
Does it?
Yeah.
Well, they announced that they're making
Not
it.
in the same way, but there's 100% a werewolf movie from like the 80s
On about a werewolf
Where-
on cocaine?
where there's a guy doing cocaine and then he transforms into a werewolf.
Oh, well.
I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I'm sure it exists because it was the 80s.
Yeah, fair. I think this is probably the coolest version of this so far, honestly. Because, like,
It feels like less like an animal though on cocaine, right? 'Cause
yeah,
it feels like my immediate thought is like it's just gonna be a guy doing cocaine and then he transforms into a werewolf. I know the implication is that he's in werewolf form and then does cocaine.
I think
but
that might be what happens.
I don't feel like. I think the appeal of that genre is you have an animal acting abnormal because it's on drugs.
See,
What is
combining that with a
abnormal?
werewolf?
What is abnormal for a werewolf? It's already.
What? It could be going ape shit.
Well, it's already going ape shit. It's a
But
werewolf.
sure, it's already going ape shit, but now it's going even more ape shit because he's doing coke.
But it's a fictional animal, so like there's no like difference in behavior.
Nah,
It's
I feel like it's
functionally
gonna
the
be
same.
crazy.
It's gonna be a bad movie.
I don't care about that. I don't care if it's a bad movie. I'm just excited about it. Mark Polonia, the director of Cocaine Shark, is set to direct the film. So he's
Ugh.
doing another one. I haven't seen Cocaine Shark. I don't know shit about it.
I haven't either.
Last thing, Sony's new tarot card-based horror film, aptly titled Tarot, has finally received an MPAA rating of PG-13.
It's
For
a tarot card based
horror
game?
movie.
Oh, horror movie.
Yeah. It got an MPAA rating of PG-13 for horror, violence, terror, bloody images, some strong language, and drug content. I'm surprised that, because this has been in the works for a while now, and I know they had to change the name from something else to Tarot. I'm surprised a movie like this got PG-13.
I don't know. I would like for it to be good because I think the concept of tarot cards is like a medium for horror is really cool.
It's super cool. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I have a feeling that it might fall into the same ranks as something like the Ouija board movie.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
So bad.
Really?
Yeah, it's Garbo.
That sucks.
Or like Truth or Dare. Like there's been
I
a
haven't seen that either.
string of like game-based horror movies, and all of them are just bad.
Well, that sucks because there's a lot of like mysticism and like
No, there's a lot of stuff, and you could
cool
make
stuff based on tarot.
You could make great stories based on tarot cards. There's one story, and I forget the name of it. You guys can Google it. I'll give you enough to like look up the name. But it's a novel, and it's about this guy who he gets into a poker game,
Mm-hmm.
and the poker game uses tarot cards, and it ends up being a game over his soul.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
I think the book is set like 10 years later or something. And rent is due.
Oh. Okay.
Do you got anything else?
No, that was it.
All right, I want to mention this really quick because I think we've mistakenly made a point on this podcast because I think I misspoke a long time ago, and then I think we kept repeating the mistake that I made because I was thinking about something else, and I think I said the wrong thing. So you know John Voight, right? And his stupid-ass face.
In his stupid fucking face.
What other films has John Voight been in besides
Anaconda?
Anaconda?
Off the top of my head, I don't fucking know.
I think on the Anaconda episode, and I'm not sure if we repeated it, I think we mentioned that he was in Silence of the Lambs.
Did we?
I think we might have. But he's definitely not in that movie.
I remember us talking about him being in Deliverance, right?
No, he's in Holes.
Oh, he's in Holes. Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
grandpa in Holes.
Not the grandpa. He's that guy who always chews sunflower seeds.
Yeah. He sucks.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if we misspoke there, so I wanted to correct it in case we did.
He is not in Silence of the Lambs.
No. I think we said he might have been Hannibal Lecter because I think I was referencing the faces.
No, that's what's his fuck.
But that's Anthony Hopkins.
Yep, that's his name. I knew he was mega famous.
I don't know. I just wanted to correct that in case we fucked up
We
there.
say dumb shit on the podcast all the
I
time.
know,
That's
but
not true.
I watched Silence of the Lambs the other day, so I was like thinking about it.
We need to watch it at some point.
We're not watching it this season because it's not really a cannibal movie.
Oh, this was... We don't need to have this conversation again. Okay. I mean, I think Sorry, I had a stroke. I think we all know what category I'm going to choose today because I've done the other two.
Cannibals?
Fuck you.
Bob's flicking me off.
Fuck
I know you guys can't see it.
Fuck you for the last two films.
Stop that visual gag on our audio podcast. I'm going to be honest. Bob's probably going to choose Romero films today.
Yeah.
None of them are bad.
Do you mean content-wise?
Content-wise.
Okay, that's more what I was asking.
It depends on if you like Romero. I've told Bob this before. I like Romero as a director. I think he's very talented. But his films, for the most part, tend to be pretty heavy on messaging.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best way to put it. So you do have to be in the mood for Romero.
Then I'm in the mood. So I'm choosing Romero
I'm
films.
not. That's what I'm saying. Not all his films are like that. Some of them are.
There are some specific Romero films that I really want to be on the board, so I'm excited.
What are you looking forward to?
I want to watch Martin really bad.
What else did you want to watch?
What is the other one with the bikers in the night armor?
Night Riders.
Night Riders. That movie seems awesome. Those are the only two.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else he's done really, because we already watched The Crazies. So yeah, I'm choosing Romero. I have all three spots. What's in one?
In one?
Yeah, what's in one?
Are you sure?
Why do you always gotta ask me that, man?
Because it makes you stressed.
It does stress me out a lot, actually.
Okay, you might be a little sad.
Okay.
We're going to be watching Creepshow.
Fuck yeah! That was the other one. Why did I not say Creepshow?
I don't know.
That's awesome!
Yeah.
That was the one I forgot about. Holy shit. I can't believe it's taken this long.
Creepshow's from 1982. Description. Romero and Stephen King. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
Length. It's 2 hours long. Rated R. Yeah, it's long.
It's long.
I was doing the notes for Romero the other day, and I was looking at all the movies, and I was like, all these are so long. They're
A
all
Romero classic.
They're all...
He makes long films.
They're so long. I don't want to do this category anymore. Review scores. IMDb gave it a 6.8 out of 10. Tomato Meter gave it a 65%. Audience score 69%. Awards: 0 wins, 2 nominations. You know, Creepshow is a anthology film series, right?
Yeah.
I don't ever want to cover an anthology movie ever again because of the amount of actors I got down.
I was about to say, you probably have a shitload of actors.
It was especially. I think this might be Romero's only anthology film, which is great because he takes care of his actors, and a lot of the people he's worked with we're either in like a bunch of films with him, and so I was gonna mention, or now famous.
Yeah.
This list is so long. You ready?
Oh,
I hate it. It took me so long. I copied all the names down, and then I was like, I gotta put it what movies they're from.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, this makes me want to kill myself. All right. Joe Hill as Joe King, Stephen King's son.
Yeah.
He plays Billy Hopkins. He was also he's a writer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's written a bunch of books, including The Black Phone, which got adapted into a movie.
Yeah.
Which isn't great.
I've heard people like that movie.
I know people like it. The movie's fine. It's just there's some missing potential.
Sure.
Tom Atkins, uncredited as Dan Hopkins. Do you know that name?
No way.
Do you know that
way.
name?
He's not back.
Who?
My God.
He's Daniel Chalice. In what?
Halloween 3.
Yeah.
God damn, he's back. I thought I'd never see him ever again.
I would describe him in that film as the old alcoholic sex man.
I was gonna say perv, but sex man works too.
Oh, his romantic interest in that is both not his wife and also way too young. Iva Jean Saraceni as Miss Hopkins. She played Ellen in The Bride. Marty Schiff as Garbage Man number 1. He was a motorcycle raider in Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, that's cool.
Tom Savini as Garbage Man number 2.
Thank God.
He was also a motorcycle raider in Dawn of the Dead. Carrie Nye as Sylvia Grantham. She played Tallulah Bankhead in the Scarlett O'Hara War. Vivica Lindfors as Bedelia Grantham. Played Catherine in Stargate.
I've never seen Stargate.
And I was gonna question you, and I was like, no, I'm fucking stupid. Bob hasn't seen anything.
God damn you.
It's true!
You're not wrong.
I mentioned the other week about on the St. Patrick's Day episode where we needed to do actual movie homework. So you've seen actual movies outside of horror.
Yeah.
Stargate is great though, especially the movie. There's a series and everything. You might like those, you might not, but the movie's nice. Ed Harris as Hank Blaine. He's a pretty famous actor. I just watched him the other day in Pollock, where he plays Jackson Pollock.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a biography film about Jackson Pollock, obviously. It's so impressive.
Really?
Yeah. How do I put this? Ed Harris is a big fan of Pollock.
Mm-hmm.
And so he put a lot of work into playing the character.
That's really sick.
They show Pollock painting, and they make imitation paintings, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those are actually being made by Ed Harris while they film him. And they look spot on.
That's crazy.
He's using the same techniques and everything. It's insane.
That's so cool.
It's not my type of movie.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of fun watching it, but it was very, very impressive. I had a lot of respect for it. Warner Shook as Richard Grantham played Pippin in Knight Riders.
God damn it.
Elizabeth Reagan as Cass Blaine. She played Cass Blaine Zombie in Dead End. John Lormer as Nathan Grantham. He played the Man, the Minister, and Strauss from The Twilight Zone. He was on 4 episodes between 1960 and 1963.
That's cool.
John Amplis
Hell yeah.
as Nathan's corpse. He played Martin. And Martin,
That guy's so cool, by the way.
he's a cool dude, yeah.
He was so cool at the convention.
He is in, I think, Dawn of the Dead, too.
He's in Day of the Dead.
Is it Day? No, it's Dawn of the... No, it is
It's Day
Day
of the Dead. He's a scientist.
I think he might be in...
Is he
Dawn of the
also in
Dead.
Dawn of the Dead?
In one of those, I'm sorry, I was looking, I forget which one it was. He plays a character named, I think it's Martinez. which is a reference to Martin.
It's probably it's probably Dawn.
I think it's Dawn because I think he has a different character in Day.
Yeah, he's a scientist.
I think he's one of the people running the booths at the beginning of the movie,
Okay.
but I'm not sure. Nan Mogg as Mrs. Danvers. She played Mrs. Riley in Knight Riders. Stephen King as Geordie Verrill. He was a shopkeeper in It Chapter 2, 2019. Bingo O'Malley. He was Geordie's father / the doctor, and he also played Officer Hinch in My Bloody Valentine 2009. 3D, yeah. Leslie Nielsen as Richard Vickers. Played Dr. Rumack in Airplane! !
That was so startling.
You haven't seen Airplane, right?
I have not seen
Definitely
Airplane.
a movie that couldn't be made nowadays.
Okay.
It's so inappropriate.
Okay.
So
I didn't know what you
inappropriate.
meant. I was like, huh?
But it's a spoof movie,
Okay.
like a lampoon. I don't want to say it's funny. Not sure if
Insane,
I
maybe?
could. Insane might be the right one.
Okay.
Lots of just crude humor and stuff like that. I'm
Mm.
trying to think. There's not really anything else I'd liken it to, but Leslie Nielsen's like in spoofs like that a good amount.
Okay.
He's actually in another one that's really famous. Let's see if you've heard about it. The Naked Gun?
Mm-mm.
No.
Never heard of it.
Oh, okay. Ted Danson as Harry Wentworth. Played Sam Malone from Cheers. Also a very famous actor. He was on 269 episodes from 1982 to 93.
I've heard Cheers is very good. I've never seen it.
Well, it's just the place to go. Where everyone knows your name.
Is this a bit?
The Cheers intro is super famous.
Okay.
And part of the intro starts with something along the lines of "It's the place to go," but the main line for Cheers is "Where everybody knows your name." Because like when everyone walks into the bar, they go, they say your name.
That's
like
cool.
Norm. Yeah. Galen Ross as Becky Vickers. She played.
Why are you pointing at me? I'm supposed to
You
know who
should
this
know
is?
her name. Galen Ross.
Name's familiar, but I couldn't tell you what it's from.
I'll give you a hint. She's in another Romero film, but she's also in Maniac.
Maniac? What the fuck? You mean Madman?
Yeah.
I was like, Maniac? We haven't seen Maniac. We've seen Madman, though. Oh, she's fucking what's-her-fuck in Dawn of the Dead.
She is fucking what's her fuck.
Yep.
Francine.
That's her name. I couldn't remember her name.
And Dawn of the Dead. Hal Holbrook as Henry Northup. Played Preston Blair in Lincoln. Adrienne Barbeau as Wilma. Played Billy Northup. She also played Maggie in Escape from New York. Fritz Weaver as Dexter Stanley. Played Professor Bissenthal in Marathon Man.
What the hell?
You ever seen Marathon Man?
Nope.
That's a movie.
Really? Will you hit a movie with just that's a movie? Normally it's like, oh, that's good, or oh, that's not great. Good lord.
Well, if I'm going to describe it, stuff happens.
Damn, that's crazy.
It's about a marathon man. I mean, that's all there is to it, honestly.
How intriguing.
Robert Harper as Charlie Garrison. Played Sharky in Once Upon a Time in America. Don Kiefer as Mike the janitor. Played Dan Hollis, Fred Danziger, and Spirito from The Twilight Zone. He was on 3 episodes between 1961 and 1964. Christine Forrest as Tabitha Raymond. Played Marianne Hodges in Monkey Shines. Another Romero film.
Huh.
It's about
Monkeys.
this guy gets paralyzed,
Oh,
and he gets a little helper monkey to help him do things.
that's kind of cool.
But then the helping monkey gets out of control.
That's
I believe
scary.
it's a Stephen King story.
Okay.
Go figure.
Sounds like something weird Stephen King would write.
Yeah. And I've never seen Monkey Shines, right?
Yeah.
The way I know it though is there's a South Park reference to it
I see.
in a very early episode. I believe it's the one where Cartman gets buff. Beefcake.
Good God.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
I say buff. He gets massive. He gets the phonics monkey. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I'm pretty sure. So the phonics monkey is a reference to like a typing thing.
Yeah.
What, spell phonics?
Yeah.
But I think it's also a reference to monkey shine.
That's hilarious.
Because it's like a helper monkey.
Okay. I have not thought about the phonics monkey in years.
I think about the phonics monkey all the time.
Like literal decades, Benjamin.
Literally all the time.
Jesus
My brain
Christ.
is a hellscape. Chuck Aber as Richard Raymond played Agent Terry in The Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, we haven't seen it.
Who'll be naming their kid Agent Terry? Reminds me of Terry from Deathgasm.
Fucking one of the best
Fucking
parts of the
Terry.
movie.
Cletus Anderson as a host. He was a production designer on Day of the Dead. Thought you'd think that was cool.
That is cool.
Katie Karlovitz as a maid. She was a sales lady and passed away. Daryl Ferrucci. He was uncredited, but he's Fluffy.
Yeah.
He did special effects on The Burning.
Oh, that's actually sick as fuck.
Because he works with
Tom Savini.
Tom Savini. E.G. Marshall as Upson Pratt. He played juror number 4 in 12 Angry Men, which we've talked about on this podcast way back when. That's the whole thing where it's a bunch of jurors in one room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then David Early as Mr. White. He played Mr. Berman in Dawn of the Dead. As you can see, that was a lot of people.
Yep.
Never want to do that again.
And
This
you
is
were
just-
talking about pitching an anthology category.
Well, anthology categories normally aren't that bad. Because most anthology films don't really have well-known actors for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is it's the double whammy of Romero has worked with a bunch of famous people.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also like reworked with a lot of his actors over and over again. So I had to mention a lot of people.
Yeah.
Director, George A. Romero. He also directed Land of the Dead. That was one of his 2005 zombie movies.
Huh. Cool.
Writers, Stephen King. You know what other movie he's written?
What?
Maximum Overdrive!
You were really looking for that one. How long you had that up your fucking sleeves? Talking about Maximum Overdrive again.
Like 3 seconds.
Good God. Anytime that movie comes up, you lose your shit over it.
Maximum Overdrive.
That movie's so
We
stupid.
got to see the Goblin Truck.
Do you get to see the Goblin Truck?
Rad. No, that movie's stupid. And you know what? I can forgive stupid. I can forgive it. In fact, I enjoy stupid.
Sometimes.
That's why I hang out with Bob.
Oh, bro. What the hell?
But what I cannot stand is the set was really unsafe.
Yeah.
It was really bad. We've talked about it some.
We'll get there. We might watch it at some point.
But I believe one of the characters is played by Lisa Simpson's voice actress.
Oh, that's cool.
But she sounds like Lisa Simpson.
The
whole movie. Budget estimated at $8 million. Box office
damn.
$21 million.
That's pretty good.
So pretty good. Country of origin, United States. Tagline: the most fun you'll ever have being scared.
Okay.
Woo!
You sound like a kooky old man when you do that one.
I'm Patty.
Good throwback to last week's episode.
Oh, it's a good thing we just recorded that. So this movie is Stephen King's film screenwriting debut. So this is the first time he wrote a screenplay.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
He'd written books and he's had
Mhm.
books adapted, but this is the first time he's written a screenplay. The film was, as always, with Romero stuff, primarily shot on location in Pittsburgh
Makes sense.
because that's where he's from, and the suburbs around Pittsburgh. That includes Monroeville, which had a old all boys academy
Mm-hmm.
called Penn Hall, I believe, and they did a bunch of the interior shots there. They built sets inside of it.
Oh, that's really cool.
Next up, obviously, this is an anthology film, and it's made up of 5 segments because, oh my god, this is a long movie at 2 hours long. 2 of these segments are specifically adapted from short stories by Stephen King.
Oh, that's sick.
Do you want me to tell you the name of those segments?
Save it?
Okay. And then I think the most important thing to note here is that Creepshow, like the title
Mhm.
and the concept essentially, is an homage to EC horror comics from the 1950s. So EC is entertaining comics. Kind of like how DC's Detective Comics,
Yeah.
But very specifically, it's referencing like horror comics such as Tales from the Crypt, The Vault of Horror, and Haunt of Fear.
That's dope.
That's all I have, because to be honest, I was like, I wrote down all those actors' names. I don't want to do a bunch of research. And also, me and Bob watched a panel on this movie.
It's true.
So I'm sure we can bullshit our way through some facts after the movie.
There are a lot of things I want to talk about after the film because there's some stuff that I very specifically remember.
Because my memory isn't good, but I know Bob's is, so.
Sometimes. Depends on what it is.
Yeah.
If it's a panel at a convention, yeah, I remember quite a bit.
On that note, though, we're going to go watch the movie now.
Yeah. We'll see you guys in a minute. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We just finished watching Creepshow.
What do you think, Bob?
I liked it. I thought it was fun.
I mean, we've done anthology stuff before.
We've seen... No.
No, so this was your first anthology film.
Yeah.
You like the format, right?
I think the format's interesting.
Yeah, I definitely think the thing with anthology films is it can be really nice
Mm-hmm.
because you have a bunch of like small self-contained stories, but admittedly the weakness being that oftentimes you have one story that's much better than everything else,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes you can have stories that are not great mixed in with good stories,
Yeah.
and it's a hard medium
Yeah.
because of that. But I think this one, it's overall fairly decent.
Yeah, I think all of the stories are around the same caliber. And of course, everyone's going to have their opinion. Some people will like some of them more than others, but I'd say all of them are at least good.
They're passable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the only thing you could say against them is maybe the endings are iffy.
On some of them.
But that's because it's a Stephen King story.
Yeah.
That was a little literature joke, if anyone's wondering. Oh, if you don't know what that joke is, basically, Stephen King notoriously gets flack for writing bad endings.
Yeah.
The best version of that joke is in Stand By Me.
Never seen it.
Have you never seen Stand By Me?
Nope.
Do you want me to explain it?
If you want to.
I will, because you won't watch that movie unless you're with me. Stand By Me is a short. It's like a short story. It's The Body, but it's been made into like a full-length movie.
Okay.
You're familiar with the name, right?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
There is a like framing device being told by this character that's very obviously a fill-in for Stephen King because it's a writer. And you know Stephen King. He likes to have his self-insert kind of characters. And at the very end, like, this character's like writing a story about something that happened to him in the past.
Mhm.
That's the movie. And he gets to the end of the story, and he's like, how do you even end this? Does
That's
like
hilarious.
the shittiest ending ever. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a super memorable line, but like
Yeah.
story-wise, it's not a great ending to his book. Fun meta joke. But yeah, anyways, I think all the shorts are pretty decent. Maybe some of their endings are a little lacking.
Interesting.
Mostly a joke is why I'm saying that. But
Okay.
with that being said, we're going to get into it. Spoiler warnings ahead. Highly recommend you go watch it blind, but as always, if not, stay tuned. So the description here is going to be pretty simple. I'm not going to talk in depth about each of the shorts, but I'll do a general overview. The first one is what?
Father's Day.
Father's Day. I think that's just the name of it.
It is the
If
name
we
of
don't
it.
remember the name of it, we'll just say what it's about. But the first one is about a woman who murders her father on Father's Day because, let's be honest, her dad kind of sucks.
He kind of sucked.
But every year on Father's Day, she comes back to her childhood home to visit family
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of like drink her sorrows away
Mm-hmm.
because she very much hated her father.
But she doesn't feel good about
She didn't want to
killing
murder him.
Yeah.
She wanted him to die, but, you know, two different things. And I guess he resurrects. That's kind of the premise of the first one. The second one is that the green one?
Yeah.
It's the lonesome death of what? What's his name? I forget the name of it. It's based on a short story called Weed, which is a much more easy to remember title. But basically, it's this character played by Stephen King And Stephen King is purposely acting as the dumbest guy ever.
But that's kind of the point.
That's kind of the point. Although he pulls some weird faces.
Yeah.
It's a weird skit, but the premise is this guy, he lives out in the middle of nowhere, like a farm, essentially, and a meteorite lands right on his property, and when he touches it, he gets some stuff on him, and this stuff causes like plants to grow everywhere really rapidly. The third one is what? The tide's coming in?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And that's about this man whose wife cheats on him with another man. And so he decides to, let's say, scare the man who's, like, stolen his wife by taking him out to the beach.
Yeah.
That's a fun way to describe that one. The fourth one is The Crate.
Yeah.
Which is about a professor. Well, technically, it's the janitor who finds it.
It is the janitor.
But a crate is found at this university. It's from a Arctic expedition.
Yep.
In 1834.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember that, but not the names of these skits. And there's something inside the box that's alive. The fifth and final one is, what is it, Crawling Towards You?
They're creeping up on me.
They're creeping up on you. Or me, whatever. It's about this guy who's a germaphobe, and he's in like this super, super fancy, like germ-free apartment, but roaches start to appear.
Yep.
And then all of this is tied together with a framing narrative. It's very, very tiny, but it's at the very beginning and the very end of the movie. With that being said, I think we should handle this kind of like we do the wrap-up. Because we basically watched 5 different movies.
True.
Which one was your favorite? Which one was your least favorite?
That's tough. When we were at the convention, a lot of people talked about how, like, The Crate was their favorite. And I really like The Crate, but I don't know if it's my favorite one. The beach one is phenomenal. But I think my favorite's the second one.
The one with the plants?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm in a similar boat because The Crate has some of the coolest, I don't know, let's say effects.
For sure.
And maybe even the strongest story.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the ocean one has definitely the highest tension.
It's so good.
Which is really good. But the second one is both a combination of a good, like, sci-fi idea.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very like, I don't know, 1950s kind of invasion from outer space thing, combined with just, like, goofy and fun times.
Yeah. I just love the end of it.
And then the ending is just very dark.
Mm-hmm.
Very, I would say, reminiscent of something like Planet of the Apes. Do you know about that film? Bob does not know about Planet of the Apes. Never mind. That one makes me sad, Bob. That's something you should know by cultural osmosis.
I don't know.
That's okay. Least favorite, then? I mean, there's 2 we haven't mentioned.
True.
It's the first one and the last one.
I mean, not that I didn't like it, but I think the last one's probably my least favorite. Because I'm scared of bugs, personally. But it's kind of boring.
Yeah, it's kind of how I feel about the last one, too. The first one, I think, is probably the least interesting story.
Really? I think the first one's fun. I like the first one a lot.
But I think it's a lot more fun than the last one. The last one is so self-contained that it's, like, boring.
Well,
but it's cool because of the bugs.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, the bugs are cool, but I think my problem with the last one is it's one guy?
Yeah.
You only see, you see 2 people, and he talks to people on the phone, but there's mainly one actor in the entire thing.
He's not really doing anything.
He doesn't really do anything, but it's not that he's doing a bad job. I just think it's sort of a boring premise and setup.
It's a skit that's about the effect rather than the story.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to go over that so you guys have a good handle on kind of what
Our general thoughts.
Yeah, what ones we liked, which ones we didn't. Kind of before we get into anything specific, though, I think we can just do some broad stroke stuff.
Okay.
So, right off the bat, I think the thing you'll note about this movie is the style. It is specifically stylized after comic books.
Yeah, man.
And so, the initial part of that is some of the framework stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There is a animated transition from the framing device, which is like just a little opener to like basically introduce the Creepshow comic, the fictional comic in this movie, which again is stylized after those 1950s EC comic stuff.
Mhm.
It looks a lot like Tales from the Crypt, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
But it introduces that comic, and once we're in like animation times, the rest of the film is basically broken up with transitions that are inside the comic. Like the film will zoom in and out of the comic book, and we'll get to see the scenes transform from like still frames from like the actual short into like drawn pictures in this comic book.
Yeah. They'll even overlay parts of the comic over the actual screen sometimes, and you'll see like frames of the comic where there's someone to the right is like moving, talking in the movie, and the left is still comic stuff.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
So there's all that framing stuff, and I think that's a cool framing device, go figure. But the real way that the film plays around with the whole comic aesthetic, is through color.
Yeah.
A lot of the scenes are lit with blues and reds primarily to give them the appearance of, if you've ever opened like a classic like Batman, or at least a Batman reprint from like the 1950s, a lot of the times instead of using like black, they'll use like a really dark blue. And the film does a lot of stuff like that. There's some similar stuff you'll see in comic books with other colors like red, and depending on the film, there's green. And the film really leans into that aesthetic. You can tell that people read comics and were like, all right, I want it to look like this.
Yeah.
Aside from that, though, there's some random, like, especially at the end of the shorts, you'll have some freeze frames on people screaming or something. And you'll, like, it basically looks like they shot the person over a black background and then did drawings around them.
Yeah.
To give, like, the whole, again, if you've read comics, like a Spider-Man comic, and he has the whole like spider sense kind of tingles around his head.
Yeah, for sure. That's
what a lot of those things look like.
Similar.
But yeah, all of those combine to create what I think is a pretty convincing comic book feel.
No, it's really cool.
To everything.
No, it's super super dope. It might be my favorite part of this entire movie because it's an interesting style that I've never seen done. Like the only thing I can think of in a similar vein is something like, I don't know, maybe Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
But that's a very style-specific
to that movie.
To that movie. And this is more of like a style-specific thing to multiple individual stories that sort of brings them together and combines them. It makes every individual story feel less self-contained and more like
part of one big
thing, yeah.
Yeah. I think your Scott Pilgrim comparison, though, is really good. That's not something I was personally thinking of. But I think you're right. I think the difference, though, between Scott Pilgrim that does very similar things, at least with some of the animation stuff that are inserted into the film, not so much with coloring. But the difference between the two is Scott Pilgrim tends to lean more heavily on video games. At least the movie does.
Yeah.
And this one's leaning more on
classic comics.
Which
I think is so fucking cool.
But I think you are right. That's a similar kind of goal there.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And like you said, that is, I think, the thing that sells this movie for me. Because I'm going to be honest, I enjoy this film, but none of these shorts are necessarily like my favorite shorts ever.
That's totally fair.
I think they're all good. But none of them are shorts where I'm like, wow, that was amazing. I don't know if you got that feeling.
I don't know. I thoroughly enjoyed all of them, but I think you're right.
I did thoroughly enjoy them, but I'm just like, I wasn't as wowed as I wanted to be.
And I think that's kind of not the point, but kind of the reason it all works is because it's put together and made to be an anthology, and each individual short is not supposed to blow you out of the water. The finished product is what is supposed to be very good.
No.
And I think it accomplishes that through its style and the way it combines all 5 of these stories into one piece.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think you're wrong, but there's other anthology films I've watched, and I watched them all, and I'm like, all the stories in here blew me away.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I just wanted to mention that, because like, I think this movie's good, and I think it does a lot that's very, very good. I just always been a little iffy on the stories. With that being said, do you want to go through the stories and kind of talk about them in depth?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. So the first one is the Father's Day one.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep forgetting names, so I'm just going to give a general referral. I think I said that one was probably tied for my least favorite.
Yeah,
I just
don't
find
know.
the narrative very boring.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, this woman murders her dad, who murdered her lover, and then the dad comes back to life and kills her, and then a couple other people. I don't know. It's fairly straightforward, and it doesn't feel like there's any real arcs, because all the murders happen in past tense, except for the ones the dad's doing.
Yeah.
Now, I think the only selling point for Bob with this one is it scared him.
Oh, it scared the piss out of me.
For whatever reason, Bob was really tense the whole movie.
Yeah.
And so, like, any jump scare really got him.
And I think that's because, A, we're recording this hella late. We've been recording all day. And it's fucking dark as balls now.
Yeah. It's like 10 p.m.
But B, this movie does a really good job in each individual sketch where there is just enough, like, pause between all of the jump scares and everything that I think I'm safe, and then I'm immediately not safe.
That's completely fair. I do think this is the movie that worked with that the best. Because there
Yeah.
was the most, like, pause, I know something's happening, where is it? And then boom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this one was kind of lacking for me.
Really?
However, I thought
I don't know.
this one did two things that I really, really enjoyed. There's two, like, saving graces to this one, at least for me. First of all, this is, out of all of them, I think the one that leaned the most heavily on using the comic book aesthetic in the short.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
multiple scenes, because a lot of this short is told in, like, flashback narratives.
Mm-hmm.
They would zoom out to, like, a comic panel, and we get to see the image inside a comic panel, or we'd see people framed by, like, drawn-in frames. I thought that was really cool.
No, it is really cool.
That was probably the most integrated we got into the aesthetic of this film, and I thought it worked really, really well. This short is also set in the dark, so they're using a lot of those blue tones.
Mm-hmm.
I thought those worked as well, too. But the other thing that I think really worked for this story is the corpse outfit.
Oh, he looks so fucking cool.
The dad comes back. It's, I believe, the actor who plays Martin in Martin, John Amplis, I believe his name is.
Is that I didn't see him the entire movie. And
That's
I was
him
like,
in the corpse outfit. I
that makes
believe.
sense.
And it looks great.
He looks so good, man.
It almost reminds me of the titular zombie from Return of the Living Dead. You know, Tarman? But not Tarman from the first one. Tarman from number 2.
Tarman from 2?
Bulkier.
Yeah, but he looks better than Tarman from 2.
But he
for
looks
sure.
better than Tarman from
Yeah.
2, less goofy. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I thought he looked great.
No, he looks fantastic. And I think they did a really good job of, like, because, you know, he could have just looked, like, gross and disgusting and been, like, an undead thing. But he still has, like, this covered in dirt, like, dirty vibe from being buried. Because he does, when you watch him come out of the ground and attack his daughter, super good.
Although the implication there is kind of weird. Like, he was just buried in the dirt without a coffin.
I guess.
Or I guess, like, he was buried in a wood coffin without, like, the
Or
cement.
maybe he broke free.
Well, like, if you bury someone in a wood coffin without the cement, like, around you,
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, sometimes they'll inset it to prevent
Yeah.
theft, your coffin can collapse inwards.
Mm. I also just really like a lot of the lines from this skit. Like, Bedelia, you bitch.
Dealy, you bitch. I want my
My cake.
cake. Yeah, it's... Again, I don't necessarily like the narrative, but I think the execution on this one was pretty strong.
Yeah, there's just a lot of really good scares, too. And it's just overall a creepy one.
Do you have anything else to say about this one?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Second one, both mine and Bob's favorite, I think. The Stephen King one.
Yeah, man.
It's
stupid.
It's so stupid. Because first of all, Stephen King is not, like, a great actor.
No.
That's not what he does. And he's doing, like, the hammiest job of playing a stupid guy
Yeah, man.
ever. But I kind of like it.
I also really like it.
Because it's just, like, so over the top. He kind of reminds me of Dopey
Mm-hmm.
from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Like, the original
Mm-hmm.
Disney one. Where he's just, like, I don't know, peppy,
Mm-hmm.
but not very bright.
Yeah, I think it has the opposite. Well, okay, this skit is also basically just one person, like the last one, but it has the opposite problem where the character himself is carrying it.
Yeah.
Like the dude, like the overall story of this one isn't incredibly like.
No, it's very simple.
It's
Basically,
very simple.
this green stuff's growing, and it's slowly covering the entire farm, but also the character.
Yeah, and he doesn't know how to deal with it, and he's really stupid, so he's kind of making a lot of dumb choices.
Yeah. He's making it worse, although it becomes clear at the end he knows he's making it worse because there's nothing else he can do.
Yeah, I guess my point is, I like this one a lot. A, because it looks really goddamn cool. Like all the green stuff covering everything, they do multiple like ways to show the progression.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily look realistic at first. It looks alien.
Yeah,
but by the end it looks like pretty realistic, I'd say.
Yeah, I really it's one of those ones where like nothing happens.
Yeah.
But it's just cool.
I mean, it feels very Stephen King. It in some ways reminds me of some of his stories that are more like there's this thing that we can't stop, and like it's just spreading. Kind of like the beginning of The Stand. That's a virus one. Same kind of thing. The big thing I'll note about this short, though, before we move on, is there's a good amount of flashbacks. Well, I say flashbacks is the wrong word. A good bit of daydreams.
Yeah.
In which the character keeps imagining that he's bringing the meteor or himself to a smart dude who's always the same guy. He's either a meteor scientist or a doctor. And they're really goofy because you get to see inside his head, but they're a lot of fun. And then there's some nice costuming and makeup on Stephen King.
Yeah, and they do I think my other thing that I really like about this one is it kind of shows the slow progression of someone kind of going crazy.
Yeah, I guess.
Because, like,
I would say more the slow progression of someone, like, dying and coming to terms with that.
Yeah, I like how slow and agonizing and brutal this one is, for real.
It doesn't look painful, though. He didn't look like he was in pain. He was itching.
But it feels agonizing and brutal because there's nothing he can do about it.
You know he's going to die.
Yeah.
I will say the ending of this one is pretty dark. I don't know if it was your read on it, but I think he got transformed into a plant.
He did.
Like, not just the plants completely covered him. I think he was, like, fully a anthropomorphic plant.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that wasn't great.
Yeah.
He blew his head off. But when he does that, it blows up weird, but there's no blood.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, I also like the use of the TV and the radio or whatever as like a
yeah, they were
a framing thing during the sketch. It's really good.
Next one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, the next one was the beach one. And like we said, I think this has the best tension.
Mm-hmm.
The whole deal with this is there's this younger man, and he's fallen in love with this younger woman. You know, they're the same age, and they're having this relationship. And the woman's current husband finds out, who is much older. I'd say, 20 years maybe?
Yeah.
Something large. And he is not a good person.
Definitely not a good person.
I believe his exact words are, I don't let anything that I own be taken from me ever.
Yeah.
And he's like, I go insane when people steal from me. And so he plays a audio recording for the guy, which is the woman he's been dating, you know, this man's wife, freaking out that she's been caught by her husband. And the husband uses that to threaten the guy to go to a beach, and he buries him in the sand up to his neck and lets the tide come in and drown him. And we learn that he's done the same thing to the woman, supposedly at the same time.
Yeah.
Just on a different
part
section.
Of the beach.
And, they die by the end of the short. Only the resurrect themselves as zombie ghosts.
Yeah.
You know Scooby-Doo Zombie Island. Zombie ghosts. And they get their revenge.
Yeah.
It's overall a pretty straightforward story. I'm not going to lie. But it's really the tension of what is this husband's plan for this guy?
Yep.
And then once you realize, he's burying him in the sand, can this man escape, or is the slow creeping of the waves going to drown him?
Yeah.
Again, straightforward, but tense.
It's very straightforward like the first one, and it's basically the same idea. I mean, person kills another person, they resurrect themselves, come back, and get revenge. But the cool thing about this one is it's very indirect in getting to that point. It's very much like, I think this might be one of the longer ones, honestly, or at least it felt like it.
It felt like it was longer.
Because you spend...
This one and the fourth one.
Yeah, you spend a long time waiting on to see what happens to the husband. Like, you're like, is he going to drown? Is he going to escape?
You mean the man?
The man, yeah. It's very tense and slow. And by the time you get to the end of it, first of all, the husband is convinced, oh, he escaped. Because he goes out there and doesn't find a body or anything. He goes, he might have escaped. Like,
well, he's convinced that they got swept away by the tide.
Or the tide took him in. So then when you get to the like stuff at his apartment, it's this thing of like, oh my gosh, is he alive? Did he escape? Or is this some sort of like supernatural zombie ghost thing? It's all just really good and really well paced out, and I really like this one.
Yeah. The big things I want to note with this one, though, are the heavy use of film in the film.
Yeah, it's cool.
The husband has like a bunch of surveillance cameras because he's definitely into snuff films.
Yeah,
which is
I think
own
that's
issue.
Kind of implied by some of his lines.
But he's like, he records him murdering all these people. There's cameras all over his apartment.
All over the beach that he privately owns.
There is one moment, I don't know if you picked up with it, where he's watching home videos and he goes to his shelf to look for one.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like he was trying to find a video of him murdering someone.
Well, yeah, because he tells the dude that he's buried in the sand at one point, you're going to be a part of my home videos.
Yeah. So that's concerning. But I thought that was a nice little use of technology.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's 1982. All that stuff was kind of new.
For sure.
And it's also like a little meta moment.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of fun. But the other thing I want to note is I'm not sure how realistic this story is.
Yeah?
I think those people should have been able to get out of the sand.
I don't know if they're buried head to toe like that.
They are buried head to toe, which is, if you've ever been buried in sand like that, because they're buried like straight up.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get out because it's heavy and you don't have a lot of leverage. But they weren't buried standing up. They were buried kneeling. So they're on their knees, which I think gives you leverage enough to stand.
I don't know.
Because, like, like when you're standing, there's nothing to push up on. You would have to raise your arms and kind of swim upwards, which I don't think you can do. But when you're kneeling, you kind of can push off yourself. I thought I should mention that.
I don't know.
But it's a fate that would suck.
Oh, for sure.
Next one?
Sure.
All right. The fourth one is probably the most famous for people, I think, in general.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the crate. And, the premise is they find this crate. The janitor shows it to another one the guys who works at the university. Dexter, I think, is his name.
Yeah.
And the thing that pops out of the crate is a monster. Its name's Fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not named in the movie, but that's like the name of the suit. And Fluffy is assumedly a Yeti.
I think so.
Because
looks like a Yeti.
It looks like a werewolf kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Ape man. But it's from what?
Antarctica.
So
yeah.
I would assume the Yeti. Not that the Yeti's from Antarctica. And yeah, it eats people.
Yeah.
And there is a narrative going on throughout the thing that another character, and do you know his name?
Henry?
Is it Henry? We're going to call him Henry then. But there's another character, Henry, who is best friends with Dexter. Really hates his wife.
Oh, he really hates his wife.
Like, she is admittedly an alcoholic and probably emotionally abusive towards him. But the whole short, he's been daydreaming about, like, murdering her.
Yeah.
Which, not healthy. He's best friends with Dexter, and when people get killed by this thing and Dexter survives, Dexter comes to him and it's like freaking out. He's like, what do we do? How do we, like, get rid of this
thing?
Ape man that came out of this box? Henry drugs Dexter and is like, I'll go take care of it. So he cleans up all the mess, and then he lures his wife into getting eaten by the creature before throwing the box into a bottomless pit.
Yeah.
I say bottomless pit. It's
a quarry.
It's a quarry that's been flooded. But, overall, again, I think it's one of the more complex plots
Yeah.
out of all of them, which was nice. And the suit for Fluffy is also pretty cool.
The suit for Fluffy is fucking rad.
But I think the biggest takeaway for this short, and why I could totally see people loving it, is this is 100% the short with the most gore.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, every other short doesn't have any,
Mm-hmm.
and this one has a good amount. And this
Yep.
is a Savini feature, so you know it's good. But also, this is kind of the short that leans the most into that whole aesthetic of let's freeze frame on someone who's screaming and then do the animation behind them on the black background,
Yeah.
which I think was really cool.
Yeah, I think I agree. I really enjoyed this one, mostly because of the complexity of the plot compared to the other stories. Every other one seemed pretty straightforward and, like, simple. Whereas with this one, like, you get these really cool moments where Henry daydreams about murdering his wife randomly, and it's kind of interspliced into a point of, like, is this real? Is this not? Like, is he just freaking out, man?
And I will say those daydreams are unique in this film because all the other like flashbacks and daydreams have a framing narrative around them, so you know it's a part
Yeah.
of a daydream.
Like, the first time it happens, I literally lost my mind because I thought he just killed her.
Yeah, but the daydreams in this one just happen,
Mm-hmm.
which is aesthetically weird, but I
It's aesthetically
like it.
weird, but it like breaks it up and feels really nice during this part of the film. I just really enjoy that sort of vibe coming in because it feels unhinged in a way that the rest of these haven't, if that makes sense. Like it makes Henry like feel villainous even though he's not supposed to be the bad guy. Fluffy is the monster in this situation. He does it multiple times, and then when he finally actually gets to murder his wife using Fluffy, it's satisfying because you know it's coming.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of good setup stuff in such a short amount of time that it's nice.
Yeah. I will also say the guy, again, I think his name's Henry,
It is. I looked it up.
definitely has the best character progression.
Mm-hmm.
There really isn't any character growth in any of these shorts. Again,
Yeah.
they feel like something you'd find in a comic book, very simple, like not a lot of depth to them. But in this one, there's actually like character growth,
Yeah.
like both in outfit, but also how he acts. Henry at the end of this is so much more confident than at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's just like a little thing that I think is really cool that this skit has. I guess before we move on, the last thing I want to mention is that Yeti is definitely magic. It lived in that crate for like 147 years,
Yeah.
which is insane. Although I don't know how they got it in there the first time.
I have no idea how they got it in the first time. They had to have tricked it into there somehow.
Like 3 seconds after it's out the second time, that crate is covered in blood, and it was clean when it went in the first time. As for the last skit, that is the cockroach one. Like we said earlier, it's boring because nothing happens. It's just a guy being a dick because he's just this super rich corporate executive. And he's racist, and he enjoys
That's true.
the suffering of other people, and he refers to them as bugs.
Yep.
So you have an unpleasant guy being tormented by cockroaches,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. I think the only thing to note about this skit is it's implied that the infestation of cockroaches is in his apartment are magical.
Yeah, which I think is cool.
They're like a death curse because he had... I will say, I don't think it's his fault, but he did a hostile takeover of another company, and the owner of that company killed himself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's implied that like he killed himself and is like cursed the main character of this last skit
To have a cockroach problem because that's his biggest fear.
Yeah. And the reason it's magical is A, no way there was this many cockroaches in this guy's apartment.
Yeah.
But also at the very end of the skit, they kind of disappear
Mm-hmm.
before appearing out of nowhere. I think the big thing to note with this skit though is A, the set's all custom.
The set is the coolest part.
It's really cool. It's all white. It looks clean.
I think that's the point. Is it's supposed to like be a germ-free apartment that he's paying like a really expensive amount for, so it has to like
I mean, it's a penthouse.
look really sick, and I think it looks really cool.
Yeah, it's a penthouse in New York. So I think he says it was like $3,200
Yeah.
a month in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
But assuming that was built in that, old boys school. But the other thing to note about this one is the cockroaches.
Man, they're cool.
So trying to remember back to our panel,
Mm-hmm.
because we did a Creepshow panel and they talked about this film. and I believe there was like 20,000 cockroaches that they got for this scene. They're of a couple different species, and they basically dumped them all over this set.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them were dumped during the last sequence.
Yeah.
But I think what is so important to note is, A, they were a bunch of different species. There's like some common brown cockroaches. There was some hissing cockroaches. But there's also some weird ones in there. And when we went to the panel, I forget who it was. I think it was Tom Savini who was like, I swear we actually introduced like a whole new species of cockroach into the Pittsburgh area. And I believe it because there's no way those cockroaches didn't escape into the school.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, there's like 20,000 cockroaches. And in the last scene, they're probably all on screen at one time for the most part. What I'll say is 20,000 cockroaches doesn't look like that much when you see it. It doesn't. But they make it look like more than it is because they very specifically put like nuts and raisins on the floor in giant piles and let the cockroaches crawl over it. I thought that was a nice little way to kind of make it look like there's more than there was.
Mm-hmm. I remember them talking about filming this one in particular and being like, yeah, it was a bitch because anytime we turn on the lights to film, the cockroach just fucking scattered.
Scatter!
I just think that's extremely funny.
Funny, but it's also
probably a pain in the ass.
Pain in the ass. Also, those guys can fly.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if you like made too loud of a noise and 10,000 cockroaches took to the air at you?
God.
Ugh. I don't hate cockroaches. I don't like them. But that would give me the heebie-jeebies.
Oh, for sure.
Because they're like crawling over everything and the actor. Props to him.
Yeah, man, for sure.
But I think the coolest scene in the whole sequence is at the very end. They all burst out of the guy.
Yeah, it looks sick.
I don't necessarily know how they did it. They got like a body double, filled it with blood a little bit, and then assumedly started pumping cockroaches into it until they exploded.
Yeah, I don't know how they did it, but it looks really cool.
Horrific because they stream out, but they were very clearly freaking out about something.
Yeah.
And that's, the sequence with the most cockroaches. I don't know. It wasn't very interesting, but all the bug stuff was cool.
Yeah, that's my thing is like the overall story and like the character setup isn't very interesting, but like all the bug stuff is actually really sick.
I only wish it was kind of spiders.
No,
because that would have freaked out Bob more.
I don't think I would have been able to handle that. If that would have been spiders in that one, I think I might have lost my mind.
That being said, though, that's it. That's all 5 of them.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to mention, or do you just want to go into recommendations?
Last thing, and this I'm just gonna say this: music's really good in this film.
Oh yeah,
the music is like actually really fucking like bangers. Like everything, every piece of music feels like it was meant for each individual like piece rather than the overall movie, and I really like that.
Okay, recommendation.
If you like Romero and you've only seen, like me at least,
his zombie films,
this is a fucking cool movie.
Yeah,
this is a really cool film.
It doesn't have the same like, again, I'm gonna use the word preachiness that because most of his films have.
It would be hard to do something like that with anthology type stuff.
Yeah,
but it still has like that Romero like charm and like
it feels kind of like indie low budget.
Yeah, it's fun. So if you like Romero, check this out. Super cool movie. If you want to see an anthology film, this one's from '82. I don't know when they like the first like sort of horror anthology thing came out, but this is probably pretty early on in something like that. So I think it's pretty cool. If you like Tom Savini, there aren't that many practical effects in this movie, but the ones you do get are really good.
All the effects are practical.
Well, yeah, I mean more like
there's no
gore
effects
and stuff like that. The big one is all the stuff in the crate. So if you like Tom Savini, he's also in the film a little bit.
At the very end. He's a garbage man. He can't hear anything. The wraparound framing narrative is kind of cool. Just wanted to mention that.
That's true.
There's not really much to mention, but I thought
no, it is really good. And like I really enjoyed it a lot, actually.
Tom Atkins in it.
Yeah, true.
Who gives Bob flashbacks?
I think those are my recommendations.
Okay. For me, Romero right off the bat. I think this is a really approachable Romero piece. Like, you can not be a fan of Romero's style, and I think enjoy this one. Because it feels different. Mm-hmm. It's got a different vibe to it. You can still tell it has some of that Romero charm, but it's not that same, like, messaging-heavy kind of film that we're used to from him.
Yeah.
So, if you haven't seen him, or if you're, like, a fan of him and haven't seen this film but have seen some of his zombie stuff, I think this is a good introduction into, like, some of his other works. If you want an anthology film, this isn't necessarily my favorite, but I think it's a pretty decent one. If you're a fan of the whole comic book aesthetic, I think it's super unique. And if you want to check something out like that, maybe you've seen Scott Pilgrim, like Bob said. That was a good job, Bob.
Thanks, bro.
Pat on the head. But yeah, if you're interested in like cool aesthetics like that, I think this is a interesting film to check out and see how they tried to translate over different mediums into film. But the big one, I think, is if you want to get into Creepshow.
True.
This is the first Creepshow movie. There's a sequel to this one that is associated with this film, and then there's a 2000, I think it's like 6 one that is like not really associated with Romero or Stephen King in the way the second one is. And then there's now a TV show on Shudder, and
I've heard the show's good.
the show is very good. And to be honest with you, I prefer the show to the movies because the show is, you just get more time for each individual story because it's a show compared to a movie that needs to be multiple parts.
How many individual like things do they normally do per episode?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it's 1 or 2. I can check really quick.
I would think it would be 2 because if they just did 1, then it would just be a serialized like.
Yeah, it's 2.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
It's 2, but each one's like 40 minutes.
Holy shit!
So they really are like a TV show episode length story.
That's
each
cool.
one. To be honest, it's really good. I think it's well done, and it's modern and it's made for Shudder, which is big for horror fans. So if you're interested in that, I mean, you can start with the TV show, or you can come back here and start at the beginning. It's all anthology stuff, so it's not interrelated. But you might as well start at the beginning and work your way up. That way you can adjust to changes, not have to go back. Rate it.
It's a hard one, Ben. Because I really like it. I think it's super fun. I think it's super interesting. And it's the first anthology thing we've done on the podcast, so I'm not sure where I want to stick it just yet. But, like we said, each individual piece is at least passable or very good. The overall aesthetic, I think, is really sick. Honestly, like, so all the comic book stuff is, like, part of the reason I really enjoy this film so much. It adds so much, like, not continuity, but just makes it all feel like it's one piece rather than a bunch of individual things. Because I feel like a lot of issues you can run into when you're doing something like this is that the individual pieces don't like match up with each other perfectly, so they don't feel. It's just jarring going from piece to piece. But with this, it feels like a soft transition. It feels very natural. It feels good.
I think because your brain's more associated with switching to different stories. If you're like, oh, it's a comic book.
Yeah, it really works, and a lot of the individual like editing things they did within each piece to make it feel like a comic is very good. I really like all the lighting stuff. All of the practical stuff we get is really good, and all the gore we do get is also really good. But each individual piece is not like, none of them blew me out of the water, but they're all good.
They're all decent.
They're all at least good. And that's where I'm sitting, like, that's why I'm in a weird spot, I guess, is my thing. 4.
Okay.
4. It at least deserves a 4, I think, considering how much I enjoy the style and the way it's crafted and put together in its totality.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 for I think a lot of the same reasons Bob said. I think overall it does a really good job of nailing the whole comic book aesthetic, and I also think that overall it's fairly decent. Like, I didn't have a bad time watching this film. But my issue at the end of the day is I didn't think any of the shorts were amazing. I think each one of them was, well, very stylistically impressive. Were not necessarily, like, structurally impressive. Like, none of the plots were great. And so while I love the aesthetic they went for, I think they really, really nailed the whole comic book aesthetic. I would have liked some better stories. And I'm not sure if that's just maybe some like style over plot thing that happened. Maybe it's just not having enough time, because they did 5.
It's true. They did 5.
Which is an insane amount. Or maybe it's, Stephen King not being used to writing screenplays. I'm not sure what it is, but overall, it leaves me in this position where I'm like, I am very appreciative of what this film tried to do, but I don't love it. Like I watch Creepshow and I remember watching it the first time. I was like, wow, that was cool, but I've never really thought about rewatching it
No, that's fair.
again. I think the only time I've rewatched it with Bob, and I think I watched it with someone who hadn't seen it. But that's kind of like the only time I'm like, oh, let me go rewatch Creepshow. Because again, none of the shorts blow me out of the water, and therefore I'm not excited to see them again.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, there's some other anthology films that I love because I'm like, whoa, those stories were really cool, and I want to go watch them again. Point being, I think it went above and beyond just a simple anthology film. It really leaned heavily into the aesthetic it was going for. So I think it can get a 3.5, but I can't get it any higher because I think the shorts need to be a little bit stronger for that.
No, I mean, that's fair. And I think that comes from the fact that, and we've seen it in other Romero films, Romero is very much about creating a message and using that message to create a strong overarching
Narrative?
And when you're doing anthologies, it's hard to do that.
Well, I think he also just has to be really passionate about that message, and he has to be given a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to make a strong narrative from a message.
It's just very difficult.
I mean, I think The Crazies, the original one, is a good example of I can see the message, but he did not have enough free
control,
reign to get it out properly.
Mm-hmm.
But then you see something like
Dawn of the Dead,
which does a really great job. Or I think Day of the Dead, which
also
I think is better, and you can be like, oh yeah, he can pull it off. But I just don't think I don't think this one turned out well, or as good as it could have been.
Yeah.
But I think he did the best job he could have with the material he had.
Yeah.
That's kind of the one point I do want to make. I think everyone did an amazing job.
No, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It just didn't stick right with me.
That's fair.
With that being said, though, I guess we're going to go up to the outtakes.
Yeah, lots of scares this time. I got scared a couple. Jump scares got me.
I'm not sure if they made good outtakes, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in a minute. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the outtake section for this episode of Beware the Board. I hope you're enjoying our review of Creepshow so far. I really like this movie. I think it's super duper fun and really stylistic and awesome. But without further ado, let's get into the outtakes. This first clip is me being surprised by the comic book aesthetic and then Ben dunking on me. What the fuck?
It's supposed to be a comic book panel.
No, I know. It's just cool. I didn't expect it.
Even though we watched a panel where they said exactly that.
This next clip is my reaction to The Father in Father's Day. Fuck! That scared the shit out of me. Holy shit! This is awesome. This next clip is my reaction to the end of Father's Day.
I don't remember enough about this film to tell you either way. But
oh my god!
I think she's dead.
That scared the... Why is this movie scaring me?
I don't know. I think you're just on it. I think it keeps lulling you into like a false sense of security.
Oh! This next clip is Ben asking a question and the movie giving him a direct answer.
I think it's probably, blue glow stick liquid, right? It's meteor shit.
You're so right, Jordy. It's meteor shit. This next clip is us figuring out what's in the crate, but also reacting to what it can do for the very first time.
It's totally supposed to be like a Yeti thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Arctic Expedition.
Yeah.
Oh! Holy fuck! Hi everybody, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the outtakes. Do we have any announcements, Ben?
Nope.
All right.
Usual stick. Check us out wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, other places on the internet. We're also on YouTube. Well, not the best for audio-only content. It is nice for showing us some support. We really appreciate your likes and subscriptions. Really shows us viewer engagement. YouTube also has a couple other tools you might want to check out. There's a search button, which lets you search for keywords in all our episodes. So if you're looking for, let's say, movie names to see if we've covered something, that's an easy way to check that out. There's also a bell button, which will notify you whenever we post something new. That means new episodes or maybe like a holiday episode in case we don't announce it. And I know other sites have that too, but I know the YouTube bell button is super easy to find. But the big thing with YouTube is it's one of the two major places to communicate with us at. You can do that in the comment section of a specific video if you want to talk to us about something in that specific episode or movie. Or you can go over to Twitter at Beware the Board and go place an order with Bob. Maybe for some extra glasses, a voodoo doll, something like that. And he'll get back to you.
Nice. That was a good one, Ben.
New Beware the Board shop.
Oh my God, no, we don't have merch. Well, never mind. Like Ben said, check us out on Twitter at Beware the Board. It's where I post updates about the show, information about the show. Basically, if there's anything you want to know about the show, it goes on our Twitter. On Mondays, I post a spoiler post for that Friday's episode, which is a hidden movie cover that you can reveal. So you can watch the movie before we do. So if you don't want any spoilers, you don't get any, and we're being really vague about stuff, you know what we're talking about. Then on Fridays, or whatever the episode goes live, I always post a link to the episode. So if you want to know when an episode went up, or you need a link to it, there's always one there. Last thing, check us out on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. We do short form content. That's where that stuff goes. So if you like the show and enjoy short form content, check us out there at Beware the Board on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts. Ben, I think that's it.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, see you guys next time.